what do you see right now in the country, in Illinois? What do you fear the most in the dark of the night, the inevitability of what follows next and next after that?
Okay, hope we can. We'll touch on a hopeful note, but we're a country on edge. This is the house divided against itself, led by men and women who want to divide it. Look, there's no mystery about what Stephen Miller's vision for America is. What he's whispering in Donald Trump's ears, the kinds of things, and it becomes more radical all the time. So I think you and I have talked about this before. The failure of imagination to imagine how bad Trump can be. We can't allow that to happen right now. So they're talking. Look. I wrote this the other day. I don't know if you agree, but there's no question in my mind. Donald Trump will at some point invoke the Insurrection Act, which is one step from martial law. If you would have said that 6 months ago, we'd have been accused of Trump derangement syndrome. I think they fully intend to do that. People like Stephen Miller are hoping. They are hoping for more acts of violence, so that they can use that as the pretext for more draconian invasions of American cities. But there don't even have to be acts of violence. I think this is their plan. This is their intention. They are lusting for it. I was talking with Susan Glasser on my podcast yesterday about this. You watch what I call MAGA porn. Um, they they love the images of the brutality. Christy Nome, the puppy killer that Donald Trump put in charge of mass deportation, made a sizzle reel video of that horrific attack on an apartment building in Chicago. And I think people just don't gloss over that. I mean, it happened. You had the masked agents who come in, guns drawn, zip tie children in the middle of the night. Okay, that happened. But Christy Nome made it into a video to celebrate it. And this has become the MAGA porn. So if people think that they're like maybe embarrassed about this or there's pushback against the violence in the MAGA world, and these are the people who are talking to the president of the United States, they're getting off on this. This arouses them. So expect much more cruelty. So I do worry about that. And frankly, I keep waiting, as you do, for the institutions that we counted on to resist, to push back, to actually get some traction. Those guardrails. I'm hoping that the courts will step up, that the media will get off its knees, the universities will get off their knees, that law firms will remember that caving into Donald Trump is not the way to uphold law. I keep waiting for that moment. My most hopeful thing of the morning, if I could throw something positive in, Steve, is I think the churches are rising. The Pope, we have an American Pope. Never happened before in world history. And this Pope is not only ready, he is willing and he is much more aggressive on a daily basis, specifically pushing back on what's happening. This is a new voice. It's an undercovered story. I hope people are paying attention to all this. It goes right to the heart of the great hypocrisy of MAGA, which claims that they are champions of Christianity, right? At the same time, they are thrashing the most fundamental Christian values. But I hope that we keep an eye on the role that the church can play in the resistance. There's a lot of historical precedents for that. A lot of people discounted, Pope John Paul II in Poland or Martin Luther King Jr. in the 1960s, or Gandhi in India. But the resistance right now needs that kind of moral force. Maybe that's coming, but we are a nation right on the precipice, which I know you've been warning about, and I've been warning about for a decade now.
Do you worry about an American Tiananmen Square?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's naive not to. I mean, first of all, do you remember how Trump reacted to the original Tiananmen Square?
I do.
He liked it. He actually, one of the very few Americans who said, talked about how strong the Chinese were. He thinks of Tiananmen Square. You and I think of Tiananmen Square as one thing. Okay. Donald Trump thinks of it as a show of strength, Right now, that's that's the entire theme running through this. Donald Trump wants to look strong, and people like Stephen Miller are, I think, lusting for something like that. And America, and again, here's the big test: is America going to accept that? Now, you and I hope that America will be repulsed and will reject it. If America does accept that, then the American experiment, we have the answer whether the American experiment is a success or not, don't we? That's what I worry
Um, so the predicate to that for me is through the smoke, you try to find some clarity. And I don't have a roundtable convened in my home, right, to discuss such things that I'm gonna ask you about. Um, you know, you know, uh, like too much. When I look at Pam Bondi, um, all I could think about was how much I wished John McCain was back on the hearing dais that day, or Ted Kennedy. I mean, you imagine pulling that bullshit with Bob Dole, Daniel, Daniel Inouye. Um, but you look at her belligerence. You try to get to the essence of what I'm looking at there. And so that's a registered Qatari foreign agent who should never have been confirmed on that
about.
single basis alone. She's corrupt. But this is a person who in the plain light of day is the architect of a cover-up strategy
Yeah.
around the most notorious child sex trafficker of the 21st century and his chief accomplice, who she's the responsible officer in her movement from a maximum detention federal penal facility where she belongs to a club fed facility where they raise puppies en route to pardoning. And this is the attorney general of the United States. And so our friend Tara Palmieri has done a remarkable job, incredible. I mean, really, I can't express my admiration for her enough,
Great.
right? And just she's the real deal. And everybody should subscribe to the Red Letter. Who's with us? Who follows Charlie? Right, Charlie and I. But at the core, while she's prosecuting James Comey, she simultaneously is covering up for the crime of raping 12 and 13-year-old little girls. And no one cares. Or it seems like no one cares. Or it's easy to say that no one cares because you see Pam Bondi's belligerence in doing it. And I wrestle with this. Sometimes 40 to 50 times inside of 1 minute, right? Which is, are we a degenerate, broken, toxic, disgusting society? Like the most grotesque on earth? The embodiment of what Khrushchev said we would become as he banged his shoe on the table? Some desiccated husk? Or are they the mirage? How do you process
Boy.
that?
It's so funny you would ask that because I actually was asking that question when I was talking to Susan Glasser, because I think, part of the disorientation is this whole question of, Is it a loss of faith? Are we losing faith in America, in the American dream? You know, is the story of our time what Trump is doing to America, or is the story what America is letting Trump do to it? So let's go back to Pam Bondi for a moment. By the way, talk about a deeply unserious person. Just almost parenthetically, I wish I had focused a little bit more on the fact that they now have these shots of her notes. The Attorney General of the United States shows up for a Senate hearing, the most august deliberative body in the world, or once was, and all she has is the her comebacks and the insults. She actually has the insults written down that she was going to deliver to the senators. I mean, what a freaking lightweight. Also, you described her as the architect of the cover up of the Epstein files, and that's true on one level, but the reality is that she's just sort of a cat's paw as well. I mean, she is doing what Donald Trump wants her to do. That performance you saw was exactly what Donald Trump wants, right? It's the audience of one. Her cover up of Epstein is what Donald Trump is demanding. And you say that no one cares about it. But the fact is, we are now in the middle of October and we're still talking about it. And that's very unusual in this particular era, isn't it? I mean, most stories just disappear. This story won't disappear. And I find it amazing how much of her reputation, how much of her time, her credibility she's going to burn on this cover up, as well as the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who has taken the extraordinary step of failing to swear in a duly elected Democratic Congresswoman from Arizona because she will be the 218th signature on the discharge petition that will force a vote on the release of the Epstein files. Now, think about how far they are willing to go to cover up what is in those files. So their cover up actually makes me far more interested in what it is they are hiding, what it is they are covering up. And you're right, Carol Palmieri has done amazing work, continues to do, highlighting the victims, highlighting what is known about this. I think, in answer to your more cosmic question, this is the test. This is why this is not just a political issue. This is really kind of the stress test for the American character, isn't it? I mean, who are we? What are we willing? I still, I struggle with this the way you do. That I don't want to feel like I'm naive. I think there's this fundamental American sense of decency. There are lines that I mean, and I think that Americans, if you ask them, and the pollsters have asked them, should we find out what these sex traffickers did? They say yes. So this is a terrible issue for Republicans. It's a terrible issue for Donald Trump because and it cuts against so much of what they said they were going to do and they promised they were going to do. It's easily understandable. And so, in answer to your question, I do think Americans care. I think they're going to continue to care. Donald Trump will do everything in his power, and it is considerable, to distract, to evade, to do all these things, and yet it hasn't gone away yet, has it, Steve? It's almost the only thing that hasn't gone away.
That's true. I mean, that's true. That's true.
I'm Steve Schmidt. This is The Warning. I invite you to join this community where I promise to be honest, blunt, and direct about what is happening in this country. America is in crisis. Follow and subscribe to this channel and on Substack. Thank you.